Call this meeting of the Davenport School Board to order. I want to welcome everybody that may be watching us on YouTube. We are live streaming. As you know, YouTube does allow viewers to comment. As a school board, we will not be responding to any comments that are typed in during the meeting. As I say, we're taking these extraordinary circumstances as a result of the flu pandemic, and we're trying to social distance and keep everybody healthy and safe. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
is there a second?
Second.
Director Gosa, you seconded. Director Beck,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to remove some items from the consent agenda.
go ahead.
I'd like to remove the following people from item 2.07, personnel, appointments, resignations, retirements, leaves, etc. Green, Jandick, Lightson, Royal, Shouts, Stinson, Peters, and Steiner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Klein Jerome, seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, the amendment carries. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? We'll move to vote on the consent agenda as amended. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, the motion carries. Move to the approval of bills. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Beck,
I move that the board adopt the following resolution as recommended by the administration for adoption of the bills from the bill listing periods of February 20th, 2020 to March 4th, 2020, and March 5th, 2020 to March 18th, 2020. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of February 20th, 2020 to March 4th, 2020, and March 5th, 2020 to March 18th, 2020.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Postian. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll move to a vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, the motion carries. We'll now go to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and
Here, Mike.
thank you, Mary. Good evening, everyone, and as I said in an email to the staff today, it seems a little odd to welcome people back from spring break, but I'm sincerely hopeful that everyone in our community, parents, students, staff, has returned from spring break and is and is healthy during these unprecedented times as a district. I have a number of items that I would like to update the board and the community on this evening. First and foremost, today was our first day of meal delivery for our students in our district. I'm pleased to tell you that as a result of the diligent work of our food service personnel, which began planning about a week and a half ago for today's first service, to include working most of the day on Sunday to get today's meals prepared. We served 1,012 meals today, which is a very significant amount of meals to our community on the very first day. We anticipate that the volume of meals will ramp up in the given days, knowing that more people will be aware of the fact that this is available to them. So I had the opportunity of spending a great deal of time at Sudlow and helping out with that process. We had an administrator at all 6 of our locations today, and I'm pleased to report that it ran very, very smoothly. And again, my gratitude goes out to the operations individuals and specifically the food service personnel that put in yeoman's work to have today run as smoothly as we could. As I mentioned to a couple of the media outlets that were present today, it's very important from a nutritional perspective that especially during times of unhealthiness in the community that we provide these meals to our students, and we will continue to ramp that up as needed moving forward. So again, congratulations to the team for all their hard work and the success on our very first day of meal distribution to the students of our community. Second piece, I would like to alert the Board of Education as well as our community, especially parents and students, to let them know that our online learning options are now broadcast live via links on our website. Our curriculum team that was led by our associate superintendents as well as Director Corey Guy, working with a number of our principals, put together what we believe to be learning supplements that parents and students can utilize during this period of time. We worked very collaboratively, not only with our UEN members, but also with our local partners here in the Quad Cities area to make sure that we can provide learning options for our students so they can remain engaged in learning during what we hope to be a hiatus moving forward. I would encourage anyone out there to please take a look at our website. It's the very first news item at the top. Those links will take you to very specific learning opportunities by grade level and by content. And took a lot of work pulling all that together. And again, I'd like to thank the entire curriculum team for their hard work over the course of the last spring break to pull all of this material together. Third item that I have is, as we know, when people left for spring break, they were anticipating coming back on the very first day, which would have been today. And a number of our students and staff members have left some things behind in our buildings, whether those be medications or curricular materials. And starting tomorrow, our principals are scheduling appointments for anyone that needs to come in, whether that be a student, staff member. Our nurses will be on hand to distribute medications that students need to pick up that if they left them behind in the schools and are in need of those meds. So nurses will be available in our schools starting tomorrow, again by appointment, to pick up their medication as well as their Chromebooks. If we have students from an access and equity perspective need a device at home, to have access to our curriculum materials that we now have posted on our website, certainly we'll have an opportunity to take a Chromebook home moving forward. And again, any personal items that were left back at the school, we certainly can, again, by appointment, afford them the opportunity to come in. They won't be able to come into the school and get them when it comes to parents and students. We will go get whatever device they need, whatever meds they need, and we will meet them at the front door and hand that out at the front door. Our staff members will be able to come into our schools, again, by appointment with their principal, no more than 5 staff members at a time to pick up curriculum materials and other things they may need to get in contact with our families. We have asked our teachers to reach out to our families to help with any questions they may have with regard to those curriculum materials. It's very important for me to emphasize that nothing that we're putting out there is required, nothing will be graded, but we'll be as supportive as we can utilizing our teachers during this hiatus that we happen to be on, and I'm very grateful for our teachers for their willingness to step forward and do that. Also, I think it's very important for our teachers to reach out to our families and just reassure them that we're on this and we're here to help in whatever way we need to. Few other items for consideration. We've been asked to be ready to provide daycare services in the event that first responders are in need of that particular service. We are ready to go in the event that that phone call is placed to us, and we'll be able to help on that front. As of right now, that official call has not been placed, but if it is, I want the community and our Board of Education to know that we stand at the ready to accommodate those requests if they do come forward on that. Other things that are still moving forward, even though most, I would say 99% of our personnel is working from home on a whole host of projects. We're continuing to work on a number of the items that were on our tables and on our desk before we left. Obviously, there were a lot of projects associated with our budget cuts. We're moving forward to make sure those are moving in a positive direction. I've instructed our HR department to initiate and continue contract negotiations with all of our bargaining units that come up this year. We'll be conducting those meetings digitally so we can continue that particular process and try and get as much work done on those particular fronts as possible, knowing that the bulk of our work will be adjusting curriculum inputs that will be forwarded to our families and students moving forward. So there was a lot of work to do a couple weeks ago. That work is still there, and that work will continue to be accomplished. And my thanks for everyone who was a part of that. So what I'm hearing from the local health authorities is that the next 2 weeks, from a health perspective, are very critical to our community. As such, as a school district, we are doing our part as neighborly as we possibly can by having, as I mentioned, 99% of our personnel working from home. There is work to do. Fortunately, we live in a digital age that affords us the opportunity to get this work done. But I would like to call out in particular and thank our custodians who have been coming in over spring break and cleaning buildings. As soon as we're done with this board meeting tonight, even though there are only 5 of us here, they will come in here and clean this room again and make sure that all of our buildings are clean and sanitary moving forward. I've already thanked our food service workers. I will continue to thank them because, as you know, those meals are critical to our students, and we'll continue to move forward with that. I would also like to thank our administrative team from the central office, as well as our buildings, and the support staff from the central office and our buildings. I called many of them back from spring break last week, knowing that we had a lot of work to do in planning for this very first day back, to include the online materials that are now available, to include the meals that are ready for distribution. And they deserve a great deal of thanks for foregoing their spring break to make sure that when everyone came back today that we had the successful meal distribution as well as the online learning launch that we had today. And again, my gratitude to everyone who worked last week tirelessly to make sure we had a successful week. Lastly, I would just like to say to our entire community that this is a storm that we will ride out. I have no doubt about that. We have some very exceptional individuals working in this district that are already coming up with creative and innovative ways to not only continue educating students, but to manage all the contingencies that are starting to pop up. Certainly uncharted waters that we're dealing with right now. I don't recall ever having a conversation on pandemics in any of my graduate school courses, but we have a good team in place here and we're working the problem. And I would like to also thank our public health officials, our county emergency management officials that have been helping us along the way with information and guidelines and recommendations. And it is certainly our hope and anticipation that things will calm down so that we can get started again on April 13th. That is our hope, that is our plan, but we're always adjusting based on the latest information that comes from the state as well as the county, and we will continue to make health concerns our first priority, but at the same time, making sure that we'll do our best to provide continuing education opportunities for our students. So with that, I wish everyone well. Be healthy moving forward. I hope you will heed all the instructions from our health officials, and if we do so, I have no doubt that we will come out of this storm and ready to go and be better than ever. So, Mr. President, that concludes my superintendent report this evening.
Any questions? Director Beck.
I have 2 questions. First of all, thank you for that complete report. I really appreciate it. I think we all do. So back home, where I grew up, they were doing meal delivery and they had to shut it down because somebody in their food services tested positive. And so I was wondering if we have a backup plan just in case something like that happens here, because I'd hate to see students go without meals for any length of time. And I don't know what resolution they made. This was in Memphis, but I just want to know if we have a contingency just in case that does happen.
So the answer,
and then
the answer to that is yes, we do have a contingency. We have identified a group of essential employees that we could recall who are working
Okay.
from home right now. But if we needed them to either help prepare meals or help in the distribution of meals, we have identified who those individuals are. I will also state that our community has stepped up. I can't begin to tell you how many emails and notes that we've received, not only from teachers and staff members, but from parents to say, do you need some help in any way, shape, or form? Fortunately, we don't need that help yet, but we definitely have a number of contingencies in place so that we can move forward in the event that illness strikes us a little bit more harshly.
Okay, great. And then my other question was, and it may be too early to think about this. I know we typically have a couple snow days built into our calendar. Are we thinking about using those, or because we've been waived from the requirements, are we planning on ending school sort of about when we had initially planned for, or is that a decision you're going to make later?
We're having initial conversations in a sense of determining what all of our options are right now, to include perhaps waiving or eliminating our early release days, to include perhaps eliminating or waiving our full-day professional development that we have for teachers, and to include potentially extending the school year. I know the Bettendorf school system has already made that announcement. I think my thought process is let's get a little bit more information to see where we are in a couple weeks. We'll have a much better idea of what's required of us, and over that period of time, we will accumulate all of our options and come together and bring a plan to the Board of Education for what the calendar would look like for the rest of this school year.
Director Klein Jerome.
I also would like to say thank you to everybody that has stepped up, worked last week to get all this smoothly flowing today with the lunches and curriculum and all that. You mentioned about bargaining, initial proposals for any employee group are open meetings. Would we be using a similar system like this to exchange proposals before you went into the virtual behind the scenes?
That's an excellent question. So we are going to make sure that everything we do is legally compliant. Given the unique nature of our current circumstances, we're relying on legal advice for that. And as soon as we get those parameters from our attorneys, we'll engage their recommendations. But we're told that there is a workaround for all of these pieces to allow for that public access, and then also allow for the negotiations to get started in short order.
In the closed doors. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a couple questions. First one, again, I do want to thank everyone for your hard work. I know it's been very tedious and not to mention scary as well, but I agree with you as well that we will get through this. You had mentioned hopefully returning on April 13th. I had also read something on April 13th. I'd read something on April 10th. Which of those dates is the correct date, potentially?
Right now, we're looking at the 13th.
Okay. And secondly, regarding the online opportunities, was there something listed there that said it wouldn't be graded? Or is that what we're working on now to receive grades for that?
We are not allowed to grade any of that material. So we can offer it as recommendations. We can point families in the right direction. But from an access and equity perspective, we cannot require any homework. We cannot require that the work that is listed be done. We can certainly encourage all of our parents and students to engage their minds as actively as possible during this period of time. And these are meant to be resources until we get further direction from the state.
Those guidelines.
Okay, for the students with picking up the Chromebooks as well, for the students that may or may not have internet access, is that available already built-in Wi-Fi with the Chromebooks or no?
So we're working on some options for accessibility, and those options would include one of the capabilities we have as a school district is to expand our net of internet access around our schools. So for example, theoretically, someone could come into the school parking lot and access our internet and be able to connect and get those resources. In the meantime, I've also asked our technology director, Gary Sloat, to work with our local internet providers. We know that they have offered free internet access to families during this time, and we're working very diligently with them to see how that can be integrated into our expectations and hopes for providing access and equity for all of the students in the district. So it's a work in progress. Right now, our goal is to, make sure that they have devices and hope that, worst case scenario right now is close by in our parking lots, but we're looking to provide some sort of localized hotspots that our students can go to and have access to these links.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and also for all that you've done during this unfortunate situation.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
Yes, Bruce?
Ken?
If the April 13th date doesn't materialize and this continues on, and say it goes all the way out to the end of the school year, is there anything, are you starting to look at, what different scenarios we might have to look at down the road?
That's an excellent question. Is one thing we're learning over the course of the last 2 weeks is it seems like every 24 hours the paradigm changes on us. So we have to look forward. We're exploring what our options would be in the event that this hiatus was extended beyond the 13th. I don't want to speculate on that right now because I certainly don't want to raise alarm in the community that we think that that's something that's about to happen. But please know behind the scenes, the teams are working in the event that that's something that would happen. I would certainly expect that we would get a great deal of guidance from officials at the state level as to what the requirements would be for local school districts. And they have not issued any sort of proclamations to that effect, nor guidance to that effect. And I think we would have to wait for some of what that would look like.
Anything else?
Another question along Ken's line. I know all the universities, the state universities, have canceled their graduations. Have we looked that far out or not yet?
Let me just say this, everything is on the table and everything is very fluid right now. Our hope and our goal is to have graduation as scheduled. As I said a little bit earlier, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be very critical and we'll have a pretty good idea of what the rest of this school year will look like. But to speculate right now, I just don't want to cause any alarm in the community. Our goal is to have graduation as scheduled. If we can't, we will make whatever accommodations the state requires of us, certainly in the best interest of our students.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Mr. President,
Yes, Director Kosa.
first I wanted to thank all of our staff and employees that have really stepped up their game during this time. It's greatly appreciated. The one question I had, I know you guys have your morning meetings. If something could come out to the board to keep us up to date, like whether it be late morning, early afternoon, just so the board's aware of what's going on. I'm sure I'm not the only one. My phone's been ringing off the hook with this whole thing. And it's just nice when people call you, at least you know something rather than, no, I don't know nothing. And here you're the person they elected. And you don't know anything. I just think it would be better. And whether you're informing the president, that's fine. Then that needs to come from the president to the rest of the board or however. But we just need to do a better job of getting communications to the board.
And I don't disagree, Mr. Gosa. So last week, Wednesday and Thursday, I started providing the Board of Education with daily updates. Hopefully you had a chance to see those. Friday was not an update. I actually gave the administrative team a vacation day because they were supposed to have one for the whole week. So I knew we were set up and ready to go for Monday. And I knew tonight I was going to provide you with an update. My intention is to provide those daily updates to the board as I started last week. And hopefully that's information that you could use in the event that you get questions from the community. Certainly email me any questions or call me if you have any. But in the meantime, you will get something from me on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Anything else for the superintendent? Okay, we'll move to items requiring action. I need a motion on the approval of the budget guarantee resolution.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District will levy property taxes for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under Section 257.14 Code of Iowa.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Beck. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We'll move to the vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The motion carries. We'll now look at a motion to approve the pandemic response and emergency suspension of policy. Before we do that, I want to point out that Iowa Code allows for an emergency addition to the school board agenda, and that's what this is. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Gosa,
I move that the board approve the following resolution as presented.
Second.
seconded by Director Postian. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We'll move to a vote. Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The motion carries. We'll now move to discussion items. Item up for discussion in the regular meeting is policy 6.01. Director Beck, would you like to lead that conversation?
Yes, this is a proposed policy. We don't have an official, it looks like the official number, if we should pass it, would be 401.56 under the 400 personnel category. This is a proposed policy to support our staff as we enter negotiations and in the future to know, so that everyone knows that we intend to continue our good relationship into the future. So I ask now if anybody has any comments on the policy as it's written. I have not heard anything back from Drew yet, but this would be considered our second reading, I believe. So it's a discussion item tonight rather than a vote. I don't know whose phone that is. But if anybody has any comments, I'll take them now. Otherwise, that would end our discussion.
The only thing I got to say is I'm glad we're finally moving forward on this. I think we started talking about it in November, so it's been quite a few months now, so I'm glad it's finally going somewhere.
I also appreciate the fact that this language is going to be in the policy. I think it's important to all of our employee groups.
Maybe I'm gonna have to call you back.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, the one thing I definitely want to see is a feedback from Drew.
Yeah, I think that's important.
I will prompt him again and just see if he has any comments. He may not even be in the office right now, with everything that's going on.
Anything else?
And just want to add, I went to the dinner from the construction workers about a month back, and the district did win an award pertaining to this particular policy. It's the 2020 Public Body of the Year presented to the Davenport Community School District for their outstanding support of the high road public construction industry, and this is from the SFC.
I don't know what she said at all. Can you repeat what she said? I don't know what she said.
I'm sorry?
Could you repeat that, Director Hayes?
I went to the dinner about a month ago with the construction workers, and they presented us with an award. It's the 2020 Public Body of the Year, presented to the Davenport Community School District for their outstanding support of the high road public construction industry.
Oh,
Very good. That's
So
excellent.
when we're clear to get in, we'll bring it in.
Do you have any board requests? Do you have any administrative reports?
None this evening.
None this evening. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 This meeting's adjourned.